That's where I'm from, and I'm proud to say I'm from the country, and I like it that way. Okay, so I'm going to go a little bit different on this video. I know I was preaching about barbecue on the last video. I got a question that said, I don't have a grill. Is there any way that we can cook ribs in the oven where they'll still be tender, have a lot of flavor, and it won't taste like I baked it in the oven? So I'm going to answer that, and the answer is yes, and I'm going to show you how to do it and still have a smoky flavor because I'm going to tie it in with the last video I did. I'm going to use the rub that we made, and because I added liquid smoke to the barbecue sauce, we're going to add that to the ribs at the end and let it soak in, and you're still going to get a little bit of a smoky flavor, but they're going to be tender ribs. Easy ribs to do in the oven if you don't want to go outside in the pouring rain, or if you just don't have a smoker but want to cook barbecue for your family. So that's the kind of route I'm going this time. Once the sun comes out and I have access to my smoker, then I'll do a video on how to do smoked ribs. But until then, we're going to do these the same way I would in the smoker, just without the wood chips. So I'm going to turn this around. I'm going to show y'all how to prep the ribs and how to season them, everything, and go from there. All right, see you in a minute. Okay, so as you can see here, this is just a normal slab of ribs you can get at your grocery store. You can get them in 3 or 4 different ways. You can get them St. Louis style, which is this one. St. Louis, all that means is that every bone from here, this end to this end, is the exact same size all the way across. It doesn't have any of the flaps or anything. The regular spare ribs have big end, center cut, and small end, so that's why you see it digress like that. You got baby back ribs, pork loin ribs, whatever. I'm using St. Louis style ribs because I like the consistency of all the bones. I like all the bones to be the same size. That way I don't have anybody griping or fighting, wanting different ends of the rib. They're all the same, and they're all going to be thick after we cook them, because I'm going to show you how to make them expand and puff up in the middle of it. So there's a little trimming that has to be done when you unpack it. And we'll see if I can do that. When you unpack it, there's usually a big old fat cap on one end. You want to trim that fat cap down a little bit. So I'm going to take it and trim it down, because I don't like all of it on these. So just get it to where you can see the meat coming through the end, and that's good. You can leave it a little bit, but you don't want that big chunk of fat. Okay, now we're going to turn it over. And on the back side, if you see, some ribs have it off and some don't. When you see it like that, it's real thick, the silver skin is still on it. We want to take that off, because the silver skin leaving on there is going to make your ribs tough. So there's different ways of doing this. I like to do it an easy way. You just take your knife and just real quick make a cut, just straight down on it until it makes a little cut. There we go. Makes a cut. As you can see, I cut it. I don't know if you can see it on camera or not. See those little gash marks? And you'll take a paper towel. Of course, my paper towels are over there. Hold on. Okay. So you'll take your paper towel, and the paper towel will help you grab it. And all you do is take it and hold it. Bend your rib back so you can see the inside of that cut. And grab it. And then just start pulling it. And it'll usually come off like that. And it'll come off. That's the silver skin. You want the back side to be silver skin free. That way you can get the seasonings under the ribs. And you want your ribs to be tender. And this is a good way to do it. So let me take the rest of this off. And get it cleaned up. And if you see any fat pockets like that, you can just trim all that out. Like, I thought fat was supposed to help keep it moist. It will, and there's going to be enough fat left on the ribs to keep it moist while it's cooking. But you don't want all these fat pockets in there. It's just excess fat and unwanted fat. Let me get that little bit extra on the other end that I didn't get to go to. Some people use crab claw scissors. They just reach in there, grab it, yank it off. I've seen them do that. There's all kinds of ways to do it, but that's it. Okay, I got it all off. Okay, now sometimes you'll buy these ribs and there'll be a big old flap on the back. You can cut that off. That's just the back skirt. You can take that off. That's fine the way it is. The little excess fat pockets, take these off. And all you want left is a pretty rib on both sides from one end to the other. Now, the next step is to get the rub. This is the rub that we made in the last video, and I added a little bit of that honey powder to it. So what you want to do is be liberal with it. Just take a handful and start sprinkling it all over the side, especially this side. You want to be real liberal on the meaty side. So just coat it on there. You can turn it on its side if you want to, and get it on the edges. Some people add mustard to their ribs to help their rub stick. I've done that a few times. I don't like using the mustard on my ribs. I will use it on my Boston butt, but not on my ribs, because the acid and the mustard, to me, breaks the ribs down too much in the cooking process, and they become too tender. And I don't like that. I like my ribs to have a little bite, a little hold together enough to have a bite to them. I don't want to pick it up and the bones slide right out of it. If you like your ribs that way, have at it. You can put yellow mustard on there, spread it around. I've seen people use hot sauce, cayenne pepper sauce to let their ribs stick. You can do that too. But I just like all natural, just ribs in the rub. All right, I've got the ribs coated. Let me put a little bit more. I've got the ribs coated. Now, the next thing we want to do is, I'm not going to put them in the oven just yet. I'm going to let them sit on the counter at room temperature for about 15-20 minutes and let this rub soak in there. And what it'll do is, before you put it in the oven, it's going to have a wet look, because that meat, the salt in the rub is going to start extracting the juices inside the ribs, and it'll have a wet look. And that's what you want, because that tells you that the ribs are taking into the rub. So I'm going to get off of this for a second and do a little TV magic, and I'll come back and it'll be 30 minutes and this will be ready to go. So let me go back in a minute and I'll see y'all in about 30 minutes. About 30 minutes, and I'm going to zoom in. As you can see, it's got like a wet look. It's got like a shine to it. That's when you know it's ready to go in the oven, or the smoker if you have a smoker, but we'll do that on another video. But it's got that wet look. The rub looks like it's being soaked into the meat. And so I've got my ribs on a cookie sheet pan lined in foil, and I've also got it on 2 racks, so it's lifted off the bottom. And what we'll do is, I've got my oven. We'll bring it over here to the oven. I've got the oven set at 270 degrees, which is where I want my smoker to be at. But there's a reason that I have it on 270, because you want these ribs to cook slow. You don't want to put it on 350 or 400 and cook them real fast. You're going to have tough ribs, and I want you to be able to enjoy these ribs. I want them to slide. I want them to be able to bite off the bone real easy. So anyway, put them in the oven. Don't put it in and thinking you're going to have dinner in an hour. They've got to cook at 270 for 2 hours. Then we're going to wrap them, put some flavored stuff in it, and cook it for another hour. Take it out, drain it, and then we'll put barbecue sauce on it, put it back in for 20 minutes. It's 3 o'clock right now. We'll be eating around 6 o'clock. So patience. You don't want to rush it. You want to have good food. So have patience, because it'll be rewarded at the end when y'all have dinner tonight. So I'm going to put these in the oven at 270 degrees for 2 hours, and then I'll check back with y'all, and we'll wrap them and show you what we do from there. Okay? So let's open up the oven. Slide them in. Shut the door and forget about them. Don't open the oven up or anything like that. Just leave them alone for 2 hours. So 3 to 4:45. So at 5 o'clock, we'll revisit this, okay? See y'all in a minute. All right, I wish you could smell this right now. I just took it out after 2 hours at 270. You can see it's cooking real good. It's real tender. Now we're going to do the next phase to add flavor to it. And to make it puff, this is the puff up stage, is what I call it. And that's when we wrap it and put some good stuff in there with it. See how when you grab it and it bends like that? That's how you can tell that it's cooking real well. The more it bends, the more done it is. So we're going to put this on a sheet of aluminum foil. I put 2 sheets down. This is 2 sheets of aluminum foil. Now what you want to do is curl up the ends of the aluminum foil so you can have almost like a boat, kind of. I'm going to set this up here. Hold on just a second. All right. So you want to make a little boat. That way you can see what you're doing and nothing will fall out. So this, I'm going to tell you the ingredients I'm putting in here to make it taste good. But you got some honey. So I'll just drizzle this honey all over the ribs. I like good sweet honey. You can get orange blossom honey, local honey, it doesn't matter. But we're going to put the honey all over it. Throw it under. Now I got some melted butter. So we'll pour that melted butter right over the top. Now we'll get some brown sugar. And you just want enough brown sugar to cover the top of it, because it's going to be sealed in and it's going to be... So cover that up. You only do this to the top. You don't have to worry about doing it to the bottom of the ribs, just the top of the ribs. And what I like to do is take a little bit of apple juice and just pour a little bit in here just to give it some juice in it. Now, we'll wrap it up real tight. And I do double layers too, because in case you have a rack of ribs that's got a loose bone or a poked out bone, when you wrap it, you don't want the rib to poke through it, then all your good flavor and juices fall out of it. So that's what we got. Now, we'll take the ribs and we're going to put it back on our sheet pan. We're going to keep it at 270. Open the oven up. Now we're going to put this back in the oven for another hour. Don't touch it. Don't open the door. It's fine. At 270 for an hour, and we'll be back and I'll show you what we do next. Okay, so I took it out of the oven. I put it back in for about 30 minutes, so it cooked about an hour and a half longer than just an hour. It's just I cooked it an hour and a half. I took a thermometer, and what I see is it's at 205.5. It was at there it is, 206. What you want is it to be around 206, 205, 206, 207 in temperature, and that way you know it's done. And see how pretty it is? Look at that. That is gorgeous. What we're going to do is I'm going to take this rib out. I'm going to show y'all the bend. Look how it flops almost right at a 90-degree angle. So I'm going to put my phone down for just a second. Hold on. I got it out of the foil. I want y'all to look at this, how pretty it is. Now we're going to brush it with the sauce. Leave your oven on at 270 because we're going to put this back in. But this is the sauce that we made in the last video too. We're just going to start brushing it on. You can tell it's tender by the way it feels on the end of this brush. But we're going to put all this sauce on it. Just paint a picture. Just be liberal with it. Don't be scared of it, because it's not going to be real sticky and wet, because I'm going to put these back in the oven, and what's going to happen is that these ribs are going to soak in this barbecue sauce, and it'll be just glazed and really good. So, alright, we got it glazed now with the sauce. Just a little bit more. I want it completely covered in barbecue sauce on the top. Now, what I like to do is take the rub that we had a while ago. I put my glaze on. Just take a pinch of the seasoning that we put on the ribs and just go through and sprinkle it on top of the ribs. Like that. Now, we're going to put this back in just for 20 minutes. That's all it's going to take is 20 minutes in here. and we'll be ready to cut it and eat. So I'm going to set my timer for 20 minutes, and I'll see y'all in a minute. Timer went off, 20 minutes. Let's look at it and see what we got. Ugh. Man, I wish y'all could smell that. There's our ribs. Look how pretty it is. And if you just put this on a sheet pan, you could lie and tell them you did it on your grill and they'd never know. That's pretty. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to stop it real quick, and I'm going to cut some of them off, and I'm going to show you what the inside looks like, and we'll be ready to go. Now I got it on my cutting board. I'm going to show y'all the easiest way to cut it, because don't cut it on the meat side, because then you're going to end up having to cross bones and you're going to get mad because your knife's not working. Take your ribs and flip them over, and you'll be able to see each bone going up, and you can just slice in between each one. So what we'll do is we'll start here, and look at it. Just comes right off. Now if you remember what these look like, how thin they were when they were raw, it's right there. I'm going to show you how much they puff up because we wrapped them. God, they're tender. So, and I'm doing this one-handed too, so you can tell they're tender. If I can get around the bone. Doing this one-handed's fun. There we go. And then one more. Alright, so I'm going to take one of these fat ones, and I'm going to show you. Look at that. The only difference between this and the grill is that the grill would have a nice pink ring around it. But for it to be from the oven, and I'm going to show you, I'm going to take a bite out of it, and I'm going to show you what it looks like that it holds together. Came right off. Just slid off. Watch. Those are good ribs. And they're tender. And remember when I told y'all, if you watched the last video, I showed y'all how to make the rub, and it had 2 teaspoons of cayenne pepper in it. And I said, don't worry about it, because you're not going to taste the cayenne pepper. It's just going to add flavor to it. There's no heat to these at all. There's none whatsoever. So don't worry about the cayenne pepper having too much of a kick. You can't taste it. So anyway, I hope, I'm going to plate these, but I hope y'all enjoyed watching this video. I hope y'all learned something new. I hope I helped you decide that doing ribs isn't that much of a task. And they're actually fun to do, and you can make them for your family. Your family will be impressed. You can put more barbecue sauce on them after they come out of the oven if you like sticky ones. But I like them just like this. That one didn't. And these are ready to go. I'm fixing to feed my family dinner. And hope y'all enjoyed it. I'll see y'all next time at the grill. Peace out.